In the name of God, good afternoon to everybody. I am Zainab Qezalayak, a PhD in developmental biology and a researcher at Ruyan Ovarian Tissue Bank. I'm going to talk about fertility preservation and its importance. What does fertility preservation mean? It refers to the various medical techniques which are used to preserve the men and women. To fully understand the importance of fertility preservation, you should consider when health conditions such as cancer, lupus, or endometriosis affect the reproductive system and have impact on the future fertility potential of each individual. Fortunately, with the advancements and achievements in reproductive medicine, nowadays we have safe and effective ways to preserve fertility, even when we are challenging health battles such as cancer. Fertility preservation is recommended for specific cases. I have written 5 different cases here. The first one is social freezing. Due to the lifestyle reasons or the social economic situations which nowadays we are facing, it is becoming more common to delay childbearing. And this we have to have in mind that by getting older, especially women, experience a decrease in the quantity and quality of their eggs. So social freezing is really recommended to these people, especially the career-minded individuals. The next cases are people who have autoimmune diseases. The diseases such as lupus or rheumatoid arthritis can impair fertility in both men and women. So we recommend them to preserve their fertility. Next, we can point certain medical conditions such as treatments that need high-dose steroids affecting fertility, and also women with endometriosis, women with genetic risks for early menopause or premature ovarian insufficiency, and other genetic diseases. They should also consider preserving their fertility before it gets too late. The next cases are people who undergo surgeries, especially the surgeries that are related to reproductive organs. When a woman takes a cyst from her ovaries or other surgeries related to reproductive organs, they should think about preserving their fertility before undergoing the surgery. The last but most important cases which really need to preserve their fertility are people who are struggling with cancer. The therapies used for cancer, such as chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery, all of them influence the fertility potential of a man or a woman. And some of them completely make the man or woman infertile. The chemotherapy drugs used, like cisplatin or alkylating agents, kill the cancerous cells, but on the other hand, they damage the healthy cells, including the reproductive cells in the ovaries or in the testes. The chemotherapy cause early ovarian failure in women and diminished sperm count in men. The radiation therapy also gives harm to fertility by damaging or destroying the eggs in the man or in the woman. It reduces the sperm production. Also, it depends on the amount of the radiation, the field of the radiation, and the location of the radiation. As I mentioned previously in the previous slide, the surgical treatments which are conducted for cancer patients, such as removing the uterus, the ovaries, or testes, have also negative impact on the fertility of men and women. The reproductive organs, such as the ovarians, especially the ovaries, are very sensitive to chemotherapy. In a normal ovary, as you can see in these small pictures, you can see various follicles. They are small primordial follicles which are preserved in a woman's ovary. In a normal premenopausal ovary, these follicles are hidden and month by month, a low level of them are recruited and start to grow. But when a patient starts the chemotherapy, the cytotoxic therapy damages her ovaries. And after that, her FSH level increases, her anti-Müllerian hormone and inhibin B levels reduce, and this disruption in the ovary leads to increased follicular recruitment. Therefore, lots and lots of follicles start to grow, and then more oocytes are at risk. They are at risk from low levels to high levels. The infertility risk of a cancerous patient after treatment by chemotherapy or radiotherapy may differ from under 20% to more than 80%, according to which type of treatment he or she is being treated with. Facing a serious medical conditions like cancer or autoimmune diseases by themselves are very overwhelming. And additionally, for a woman who dreams to have a child and become a mother someday, thinking of the possibility of losing fertility can add her extra layers of stress. Therefore, fertility preservation offers her hope and allows the woman to safeguard her ability and to have a biological children even after she has affected by the treatments of cancer. For these reasons, fertility preservation is a priority for patients requiring aggressive treatment. But there are different options for fertility preservation in men and women. And choosing the best option for each individual differs and depends on various options. As you can see in this list, the patient's age, the partner status, the social situation of the individual, the type and stage of the oncological pathology, the possibility of delaying the start of chemotherapy, the possibility of receiving ovulatory agents, this is for only women, the tumor biology and the possibility of metastases, and finally, the proposed therapeutic plan all have impacts on choosing the best fertility preservation for each individual. The type, the dose, and the duration of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and surgery influence the patient, and therefore the counseling doctor has to have aware all of these subjects in his or her mind to choose the best fertility preservation strategy for his or her patient. As I said, there are different preservation fertility options in men and women. In this slide, you can see the options for fertility preservation in men. There are some established techniques: sperm cryopreservation and banking, radiation shielding, electrostimulation, and sperm extraction from urine. The most effective and most used techniques is sperm cryopreservation. There are also some experimental techniques that are being used in the laboratories for fertility preservation, which include testicular sperm extraction and testicular tissue cryopreservation. There are also different fertility preservation options in women, such as pelvic shielding during radiation, ovarian transposition, and cryopreservation of embryos, oocytes, and ovarian tissue. As I think you can have in mind, and you have noticed, both in women and men, the most common option for fertility preservation is cryopreservation. Both men and women, for preserving their gametes, either it is oocytes or it is sperm, or even if it's an embryo or a tissue, they need to cryopreserve it. Therefore, cryopreservation is essential for these techniques. So let's have a look at cryopreservation. First of all, let's have a look at the principles of cryopreservation. Cryopreservation is a technique which in it the cell excuse me. I was saying that cryopreservation is a technique in which that the cell life is holden. As Professor Tuzman talked in the morning about the cell cycle, this technique helps the cell to be paused in the middle of its cycle. It doesn't matter which part of the cycle it is. In any part that it is, the cell cycle will be stopped and will be silenced. This technique works on the efflux of water from the cells. It takes the water out from the cells, and therefore the cells starts to sleep and be paused. When the water comes out of the cell, some crystals, ice crystals, begin to form inside the cell. And it is very important that the amount of these crystals are low, because if they are very high and the cell will be full of them, when it is going to be warmed and when it is going to wake up again, then it will be damaged. These ice crystals will damage it. There are different cryopreservation methods. Two of the most important of them are vitrification and slow freezing. Both of them are being used for fertility preservation in men and women. And both have different effectivenesses. These two techniques differ in order to allow sufficient efflux of water to eventually minimize the chance of intracellular ice formation. If the intracellular ice formation lowers, then the cell will be in a good manner and mood after being thawed. For using the cryopreservation method, we have to have some kind of agents called cryoprotectants. These cryoprotectants are different, and they work on the osmotic strength, and they allow the water to go out of the cell. And by this method, they can cryopreserve the cell and bring it to pause in the cell cycle. But when we are cryopreserving cell or tissues, we have to have in mind some common points. The concentration of the cryoprotectant used must be considered. The toxicity of it must be also considered, and the amount of intracellular ice crystal formation should be noticed. As I'm working in an ovarian bank, and I know more about the female fertility preservation options, so I'm going to talk more about cryopreservation techniques in the female preservation fertility options, such as embryo cryopreservation, oocyte cryopreservation, and ovarian cryopreservation. First of all, let's look at embryo cryopreservation. The first ever pregnancy derived from a frozen human embryo was introduced in 1983 by Alan Tronson and Linda Moore. They were the first to say they have born a baby from a frozen human embryo. This is the primary method which is used for fertility preservation, and it requires adequate ovarian follicular reserve in the woman and needs time and also needs a partner. So if a woman isn't married or has a cancer, a very aggressive cancer, she can't choose this option. It is only good for women who are married and have low aggressive cancers, and they are in younger ages, so they have more ovarian follicular reserve. They can choose this option. Embryo cryopreservation also requires ovarian stimulation. It is ethically problematic in some countries, and some countries do not allow this option for their patients. It leads to about 35% pregnancy rate per transfer of 2 to 3 embryos. Also nowadays, they only transfer 1 or 2, and only few countries ethically allow to transfer 3 embryos for the patient. Next, let's look at the oocyte cryopreservation. The first report of a successful pregnancy using a frozen toad oocyte was in 1986 by Chen. In oocyte cryopreservation technique, we also need adequate ovarian follicular reserve, time, and stimulation prior to treatment. When a woman hasn't very aggressive cancers and she can postpone her medical treatments for more than 2 weeks, she can choose this option because the stimulation prior to treatment needs 10 to 14 days. So if she is married and she has time, she can choose embryo cryopreservation. But if she is single and there is no sperm, she can choose oocyte cryopreservation. Oocyte cryopreservation is less ethical concerning, but it has some drawbacks. And its drawback is that either slow freezing or vitrification methods, the rate of pregnancy is very low, less than 10%. So embryo cryopreservation is more effective for women. The next option is ovarian tissue cryopreservation. It should be noticed that ovarian tissue cryopreservation is the only option available for prepubertal girls. As the prepubertal girls' ovaries haven't developed yet, they do not have grown and matured oocytes to be obtained, and they can't have stimulations for their ovaries, so they should only choose this option. They do not have any other ways. And also for women who cannot delay their chemotherapy treatment, they have very aggressive cancers, they can't wait 2 weeks. This method is chosen for them. It also doesn't need hormonal stimulation of the ovaries, so doesn't make ovarian hyperstimulation. But it requires surgical procedure to remove the ovary or just a piece of ovary. So before starting the chemotherapy, the patient has to undergo a surgical procedure, so the ovary or part of it can be removed. Also, the age of the patient should be taken into consider because the follicular reserve of the ovary is age dependent, and so many departments have the limitation of 35 years old for the women who try to preserve their fertility by ovarian tissue cryopreservation method. Till now, more than 130 live births have been introduced with cryopreservation of ovarian tissue, and afterwards transplantation back to their body. When an embryo or an oocyte is cryopreserved, when the patient has treated with cancer and has been cured, she can come back and have her oocytes or embryos by IVF, get an embryo, have her embryos implanted back into her uterus, or have her oocytes undertaken IVF, and then the embryos are implanted back to her uterus. But for the patients who cryopreserve their ovaries, after they have been cured, they should come back and the ovaries are transplanted back in their body. And then afterwards, they are stimulated by gonadotropins, and then the oocytes are retrieved and matured in the lab by in vitro maturation techniques, and afterward the sperms are added and the embryo is produced and then implanted back into the body of into the uterus of the woman, and then she could have a baby. So it's a very long procedure for her, but for some patients, this is the only way to preserve their fertility. There are also some other ways to work with these cryopreserved ovaries, such as in vitro culturing them, or dissecting them and removing their follicles and oocytes, and using in vitro maturation of oocytes to have matured eggs, and then in vitro fertilization to get embryos. Thank you for your attention.